Justice League issue 33, Scott Snyder and James Tynion the fourth, with Bruno Redondo and Daniel Semper on the art. So much like the formula of the last couple of issues, it's very similar again. We have the stuff in the present day with Lex and Perpetua, now with the monitors kind of coming together to sort of meet them, and then we have the past stuff with the JSA, with Hal and Barry. And of course Aquaman was revealed at the end of the last issue. And then of course in the future we have the Trinity with Brainiac 1 million. So as what I point out, in the last issue we introduced Brainiac 1 million, and then in this issue we have the Ultra Monitor.
Yeah.
This book is going deep with the absurd comic book names things.
Though, the Ultra Monitor is cool as shit.
The Ultra Monitor reminded me of Captain Planet, and I mean that as a compliment.
It looks great. I love
the
your
powers combined. I am the Ultra Monitor.
I mean, it looks like he's got a bit of a gut, actually. His belly's looking a little bit puffy.
And?
I mean, there's 3 of them in there.
That's where the strength comes from, Pete.
Is this Matt's next cosplay? Next time he goes to a con?
Don't ruin it for people.
I am the Ultra Monitor.
To see that.
Oh dear. So the JSA crew are on their way to Atlantis. They kind of ask Aquaman how he came back, and he mentions the Anti-Monitor saving him. This kind of murkied things up though, because we thought that this was set maybe before his first arc in the solo book with Kelly Sue DeConnick's run, but it kind of implies that it's not via the editor's note. So
yeah, I think the impression I got was, so he went straight from the ending of Drowned Earth. That's where he had his moment with the Anti-Monitor. And then when he was sent back, he was sent back, and that's when we got the first arc of Kelly Sue's stuff.
Yeah, so but where does the stuff with him remembering Mira killing him coming into all this?
Remember? Yeah, because he died.
Yeah.
Was that in Drowned Earth and he was laying low?
Well, that was the initial assumption, but then we saw that Mira killed him in that weird flashback he had.
But that's what I mean.
So the way that we fixed this in our heads last issue was that the Mira killing him is going to happen at the end, later on in this story, and that would lead into his solo book. But now that they've confirmed that that's already happened,
the Mira thing is not as clear as we have assumed in the past.
Very
maybe
possible.
It's more metaphorical.
Very possible, but it just okay. Everything we were thinking last time about the timeline of this has just been kind of dealt with.
I feel like if we wait until the end of this story, maybe it'll piece together a bit better.
Yeah,
as with a lot of comic stories, to be honest, when they're concurrently running.
Yeah. But this one makes it a bit more confusing. Whereas I think there's some examples later, particularly in Lois Lane, of stuff happening in books that ties into other books that makes it all feel like a coherent world, that everything's happening together.
Yeah.
I feel like here, this Aquaman stuff is just inherently a little bit like, wait, what's happening? How does this fit with that? And
it does, but it is far from the most egregious case of that, even in the last year.
It is, but what I'm saying is that there's examples where it enhances the story, and then this is kind of the opposite, where it's taking me out of it for a second, because I'm actually having to think about it. I'm like, okay, how does this fit with that?
There's 2 separate stories that are ongoing, and okay, well, when they're finished, we'll slot them in, but in the moment, it's a bit jarring. I'll grant you that.
Yeah. So, and Alan and John are kind of bonding a little bit about being ring slingers, and John's like, oh man, things don't even feel like they're any better in our time than compared to yours, and he's like, we're not expecting you to fix everything, just always be there to fight evil, blah blah blah. So that's going on. The Trinity are dealing with Brainiac 1 million, who's kind of making easy work of them, to be honest. He's kind of picking them up like the little kids, and
Commander's just sat there chilling on a rooftop watching.
He's just waiting around for his final page so he can do his big reveal, his big cliffhanger.
Pretty much, yeah. It's pretty good, to be fair.
Yeah, I will say I like Kendra in this issue. I love her having a potty mouth and dropping. Obviously, it's censored, but she's dropping f-bombs and stuff, and all sorts.
She worked out.
She's getting angry at Lex, and I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I've not been a big fan of this Lex for a while, but I'm definitely not a fan in this issue of him having A, T-1000 arms, and then B, turning into the version of the Joker at the end of the first Arkham Asylum game where he gets all big and Bane-like.
Yeah, I mean, this is all because he kind of absorbed John, so he's got
Yep.
his shape-shifting ability.
Yeah, that's what makes him the apex predator.
Yeah,
No, I
so
mean,
that's
I
you
get
know,
the why. I'm not saying I don't understand it. I'm just saying I don't like it.
okay, fair enough.
I just don't like the
Um,
visual of it. Like him.
I like him goading Kendra a lot, like to unleash early.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. What she does, because she's supposed to like hold her wings in, her her totality
magic
wings, yeah,
Yeah.
until the monitors have opened the portal to the other two teams in the other timelines, which they can only do once they've got pieces of the totality, which they don't have yet. So Kendra's kind of blown her load. Which could be a problem, although I'm sure they'll deal with it. I will say, the others going into Atlantis, I actually for a second it took me a while to notice the green outline on them to tell us that the Green Lantern
They
was
were-
protecting them
Yeah.
from.
Okay, I thought it was quite actually quite an obvious outline.
Well, no, it is when you look up at the group shot of them all going down together. Because even in the wide shot at the top, where they're just kind of in the distance, they're just all green. But I wasn't really kind of like taking it in, and I got to the Wildcat panel at the bottom, and I went, "How is he just floating in water without giving a shit?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a green outline. Never mind."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I forgot how much I love Wildcat.
Yeah, he's one of those characters.
Yeah.
yeah, so. Yeah, they try and talk to the king. Arthur's like, "Oh, he's my
A little bit complicated, but in my time, I'm one of you fellas.
yeah, he's like my father or grandfather or whatever. Like, just go along with it." But Cheetah and Sinestro and Grodd show up, and they've got Poseidon on chains.
Yep.
He's basically Cheetah's bitch right now, and and then Vandal Savage shows up with his Legionnaires Club, because apparently this run's going to pull every single character possible out of everything, out of all
Yep.
time in DC Comics. So
I'm okay with that.
I'm a little bit numb to it at this point. By the time it got to the reveal at the end of the issue, I'm like, okay, I get it. We can pull things from anywhere.
See, I thought I was, but then I got to the last page and went, oh shit, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, because we're basically at the end here where everyone's getting beat. Brainiac 1 million's electrocuting the Trinity. Kendra's fighting Lex, and Vandal Savage is facing down, Lantern flashing Aquaman, and then Commandy's recruited Batman Beyond and the other Beyond Justice League members, which is the final page reveal.
We need to win more justice.
We need more justice. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, I've been typically enjoying this arc, and the JSA stuff and the stuff in the future. I will say I'm a little bit numb to the big reveals in this now, because it is just pulling in from everywhere.
Yeah, I want to know who this Legionnaires Club is, because I want to read a story about them.
Of course you do.
Yeah, they
Matt.
look cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge Batman Beyond fan. I have very little attachment. But
Yeah.
I still thought it was cool. Like, oh, hey, we're doing that now.
Yeah.
It still had impact on me as someone who doesn't care about Batman Beyond. I assume people who do care. This felt pretty big for them.
I feel like whatever happens from here is what lays the groundwork for Millennium, which then Millennium lays the groundwork for what's going on in Legion, which will set up that whole new timeline thing. Like one begets the other. So.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, that's just fine. As easily the best art of the week so far, which the bar was not that high for me, admittedly. But, so that's got that going for it, at least. I feel like, this was the last book I read, and I think, even though I've been typically enjoying this arc, I always put it off till last, because it's always the most wordy one I have, and it was easily the most wordy book I had this week.
That's funny, given that your logic previously is, okay, the big books I'm going to do first because they take longer. So it's strange to me that this one that presumably takes longer to read, you then go, right, I'll leave it till last.
Because, but it's okay, the big books, though, I still kind of looking forward to reading, whereas Justice League, I would not look forward to reading it, but it's definitely, this one's going to be the most that's... Because some issues of this have been a chore to read, and I never know before I read it if it's going to be one of those issues. So it always gets put off till last, because I'm like, well, I like this week's issue, I don't know. Maybe it'll be like that villains issue we had that was, Batman Who Laughs and stuff back at like issue 8, which was terrible. Whatever issue number that was.
Oh, but that was so
Yeah.
long ago now.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree it was terrible, but Jesus, if you're still hanging on to that for every issue.
Well, no, that wasn't the only one I disliked, though. That's just the one that came to mind as being the worst.
Fair enough.
There's been other issues I've been pretty down on in this run.
Yeah, I suppose you have.
But I didn't like this one as much as the last couple. I think the formula of the last few issues really settled into this one, I thought, where it was just a little bit of advancement in each plot. And you know, I almost wonder, would it have worked better to have a full issue of just the JSA like in the past, a full issue of just the future stuff, and a full issue of the present day team, and like let them all have their own little stories, kind of breathe, as opposed to cutting between them all like this. Because it does get to the point where it feels like there's just a little bit of each one in each issue, just kind of like
I can see that.
sneaking along. And I was kind of feeling it in this one mostly, and then. You know, and the big reveals are fine. I'm just a little bit numb to them at this point because I feel like so much of this run has been revealing other things from DC's history, just sort of coming out. And I guess this final one here feels the most stunty one to me. I guess. Oh, that's a word.
No, it's just
stunt-like.
I mean, it's par for the course. It's staying consistent for me, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with all this. But I like the pulpiness. I like the different teams being assembled and whatnot.
I personally quite like Snyder going, screw it, let's do everything in one big story. We've said before, this is Snyder by way of Morrison.
Yeah.
And I feel that with the way he kind of treats all these other things that he's bringing in. There's the reveals and okay, here's Batman Beyond now. It's like, okay, cool. It feels like Morrison did a lot of that work with admittedly smaller things, just because he loves stupid tiny little things. He's like, I'm making this a thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like if there was more time given to all these like reveals to actually like every idea, feel like it was. I feel like he's just going through a lot of ideas very quickly, and I don't feel like I'm getting enough time to really care about any of them, and give them all the weight that they probably should deserve. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. But I feel like this story is just it's for as deep as Snyder wants to go, it's not going to take its time. Not that it's rushing either, because I'm fine with that. But
this is pretty steady pacing wise.
Yeah, he's just scraping the surface, and so that's why I feel stuff will pay off later. So, and he's seeding the ground that way.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's much better than All-Star Batman, and it's much better than, some of his later regular Batman run. But, it's very up and down for me. I've been very kind of, as bizarre as this sentence says, I've been very consistently up and down with this book over the course of this run. And like I say, I think this arc is one of the best ones, but I am starting to feel the formula of how it's structured each issue with the different teams. But still, certainly not the low point of the book, because we definitely had that. I wasn't big in the Thanagar Prime issues, and I wasn't big on some of the other stuff that I'm sure I'm forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all in one set of eyes and out the other.
Yeah. So the first stuff with Vandal, Savage, and all this. That was all seeded back in 18. So
yeah, I remember enjoying that a lot.
Because I'm just looking up because I'm trying to figure out who these characters are. But
they have some great designs, don't they?
They do. But I don't think there's names or anything for them. But if we can get a JSA story of JSA versus these guys,
oh yes, I need it.
Let's do it.
I need it so badly.
You may, if there's going to be a GSA book after this.
We've got, as far as I'm concerned, the dude on the left is Proto Deadshot.
Yep.
With the eye thing.
Yep. Well, and then you also have Proto. I mean, the steampunk lady with the top hat.
Yeah.
Kind of the same there.
You've got kind of like an early Blue Beetle-esque suit in the back.
In the back, almost like Black Beetle.
Yeah. And you've got very classic, explorer, archaeologist character,
The
A little bit
glasses
older
give
than
me
usual, but-
a Savannah vibe.
Yeah, I
You know?
can see that.
So, but yeah,
I'm into
whoever
all
those
of
guys
these.
are, yeah. But no, that was. I like this issue. I mean, art's pretty consistent throughout, so
For the most part, Aquaman has some dodgy feet at one point
yeah,
while he's swimming. The page with all the green outlines that Pete was talking about.
yeah,
If you go back
I
to
know.
that, right in the middle, Aquaman's feet are just a bit strange.
Hmm.
But mostly it's pretty good.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and the Ultra Monitor. If this is gonna be a thing going forward, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm
You know,
kind of into it.
where it's like the biggest type of crisis. Because when you think about the Anti-Monitor and the Monitor, they were introduced during the first crisis. So the fact that they
I feel
can
like we're
join
getting
together.
across at some point in the next couple
Yeah.
of months.
Yep.
All right, what we rating it then, Matt?
8.5.
Connor?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. 8.5.
7 for me. Good, but feeling some kinks,
Ooh.
roughness. Not kinks like that, Matt. Get your head out the gutter.